Wait, I know you. That's how it started, 3 words, tossed across the gleaming ballroom, shattering everything I thought was real. I was halfway through a bite of lobster, just trying to blend into the chaos, when Jordan locked eyes with me from across the room, his gaze all wild recognition and something that looked a whole lot like fear. The air got tight. You know that feeling? Like everyone in the place just leaned forward at once. His fiancée, Esther, slipped in right beside him, all grace and diamonds, but you could see the storm coming up behind her eyes. "Who is she?" she demanded, voice sharp enough to cut glass. And in that instant, I swear, every conversation in the room died. "I know her," Jordan said, voice cracking. "That's Anna." The room spun as my plate hit the floor. Next thing I knew, every face was turned my way, some whispering, some smirking, and somebody had already pulled out their phone, probably thinking they were about to film the best disaster of the year. "Anna, you know this woman?" Esther's voice boomed, but Jordan just stared at me, his jaw working, no sound coming out. And then suddenly, like he was confessing a sin, he said, "She's my daughter." You could have heard a pin drop. Maybe you've never seen a secret rip a room open, but that's what it felt like. Phones lifted, whispers grew into roars. Esther's face went pale, hands trembling. "You have a daughter?" she spit out, and I could see her knuckles turning white around the edge of the tablecloth. I wanted to shrink, to disappear, but I stood my ground. "You should have kept quiet," I muttered. People moved in like they wanted to see a fight. And then Esther, before I even saw it coming, slapped me so hard the sting nearly brought tears to my eyes. Jordan caught her wrist mid-swing, shouting, "What the hell are you doing?" But she was already on fire, accusing me of planning it, of coming here to ruin her big day. I barely managed. "I came here for food, not drama." But that only made it worse. Esther pressed in, yelling about sympathy, and I shot back. "I don't want your sympathy, I just wanted to eat." That's when Mrs. Chun, Jordan's grandmother, stood old but commanding and said, "She looks just like her mother." That shook me. "You knew my mother?" I asked, and Mrs. Chun nodded, voice soft. "She left you with Jordan when she died. We thought you both were gone." But the truth was I wasn't gone, just lost in the system, shuffled from home to home, learning how to disappear. Esther sneered at the story, but Jordan turned to her, saying, "I thought she died with her mother. My father handled everything." I told him, "Your people turned me away," and Mrs. Chun, eyes wide, asked to see the scar under my hairline. "It's her," she whispered. And suddenly, the weight of all those empty years landed on us both. Esther wouldn't let go, kept throwing poison. "She's after your money," she snarled, and I told her straight. "I want nothing from you." Jordan raised his hand. "Enough, everyone. This is my daughter. I don't care about the press. I care that I found a piece of myself I thought was lost forever." Esther's eyes burned. "Then you've made your choice," she snapped, turned, and marched out, her friends hustling after. The room went dead quiet, except for my heartbeat drumming in my ears. "You didn't ruin anything," Jordan said. "You might have saved it." I tried to laugh. "Don't romanticize it. I still stole food." Mrs. Chun smiled. "You reminded us what hunger looks like, not just for food, but for truth, for family." I should have left then, but Jordan asked me to stay for dinner. I sat at his table, barely touching the food-rich stuff, nothing like the meals you eat when you've spent half your life counting bites, not courses. Every whisper in that room was a knife. Jordan's voice cut through. "Let them talk. I'm trying to be present for once." From down the table, an older man, Mr. Blake, warned about the optics. Investors were watching. Jordan shrugged. "Let them. If they can't handle reality, they can take their money elsewhere." I shot back. "Bold move for someone wearing cufflinks worth more than I made last year." He cracked a tired smile. Esther called him from outside, voice sharp as ever. "You threw away our wedding for her. You walked out," Jordan told her. "I'm asking you to respect the truth." She accused me of being a scam, out for a payout, but Jordan didn't flinch. "I'll talk to you later," he said, and hung up. I pushed my plate away. "So now what?" He folded his hands. "Now we talk if you want." I asked him, "What do you want to know?" "Everything." I told him, that's a lot for a guy who just met his daughter yesterday. I told him about the foster homes, the nights in group shelters, the day I figured out who I was and tried to reach out. Your assistant laughed at me, I said. Told me people make up lies like that all the time. He apologized, but I just shook my head. Maybe your world was too clean for someone like me. It wasn't clean, he said, just polished over the cracks. Mrs. Chun reached over and squeezed my wrist. You're here now. That means something, but it doesn't mean I belong, I said. Jordan told me, you belong more than most here. Some guy muttered about me draining the trust fund. Jordan stood, voice hard. Anyone who doubts her can leave. No one moved. That kind of money still has power, even when it's broken. After that, for the first time, I picked up my fork and ate. Outside, headlines brewed, but inside, there was this silence, not shame, but recognition. Later, Jordan found me outside, rain streaking the black cars. He handed me hot cocoa. He offered me a place to stay, just a rest, no strings. I hesitated, but followed him to his house. It wasn't what you'd expect for a billionaire, no marble, just books and art and a piano with a sheet of music half written. He showed me to a guest room, told me I could lock the door if I wanted. Your family, he said, not because I feel guilty, because I want to be. I didn't answer, just went down the hall, closed the door, and tried to breathe. I woke up to sunlight and the smell of pancakes. Mrs. Chun was already at the kitchen counter, sipping tea. Jordan flipped pancakes like a pro, offering strawberries. No expiration dates here, he said. I sat and ate slowly. He brought out a Fatimie mother, young and bright, holding a baby with wild curls. That's you, he said. She carried that picture everywhere. I stared at the image, fighting tears. I never saw her like this, I whispered. She smelled like cinnamon and clean sheets, Jordan said. We sat in silence, and then I asked, what happened after she died? There was a fire. Jordan said he was told we both died. My father said not to dig, he told me. He was wrong. Mrs. Chun said she always suspected. By the time I figured out who I was, you were someone else. I was just a name in a file. I told him. You're not just a name, he said. You're family. I shook my head. Family leaves. Mrs. Chun took my hand. Sometimes family gets lost. That doesn't mean we stop looking. Then the doorbell rang. Marcus Langfordester's father showed up, flanked by suits. The incident last night drew attention. Let's not escalate, he said, trying to sound kind. So this is about money, I snapped. It always is, he replied. Jordan stepped in. I won't disown my daughter to keep your investors comfortable. Marcus warned about quietly resolving this before it becomes a brand crisis. I stood my ground. I'm not a crisis. I'm a person. For the first time, Marcus looked rattled. Be careful, he warned. When he left, Mrs. Chun muttered, that man has too many mirrors and no soul. I turned to Jordan. Do you see now? I don't fit here. He looked me in the eye. Then maybe it's time we change the world. For the first time, I didn't argue. The next morning, headlines blared, billionaire's hidden daughter. Jordan shrugged. I've seen worse. I showed him the files me name, buried in ledgers, proof my mother tried to fight for me. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate, I whispered. Mrs. Chun said, he believed children were distractions. Jordan replied, you're not weak. You're still here. We started digging archives, court filings, even payment trails to private agencies. We found evidence of other kids, not just me, shuffled off record, erased for profit. One name kept coming up, Victor Bennings, the lawyer behind the deals. We tracked him a Paso Robles sold, sharp, no shame in what he'd done. Your grandfather paid for discretion. I provided it legally, he said. I demanded the original files. You'll have them by sundown, he promised. We spent hours in a dusty storage unit, pulling box after box. I found letters from my mother begging for family to step in, notes about discretionary redirection, bribes, lists of other children. They didn't just erase you. They built a business out of it, Jordan said. That night, I sat with the files, finding a letter my mother wrote to me. If you ever find this, it means the world wasn't kind, but I know you're still fighting. Don't let anyone steal your name again. The next morning, I started writing my story, my statement. My name is Ana Grace Delgado. I was erased, hidden, but I am not invisible. We organized, gathered other survivors. At our first meeting, stories poured out people who had spent years believing they were abandoned, discovering they were sold, relocated, renamed. We called ourselves the Uncounted. The house became a movement's nerve, center files, photos, coffee, testimony after testimony. Our stories grew too loud to ignore. News broke, lawsuits filed. Lawmakers listened. Even those who tried to bury us sent anonymous tips, evidence that closed the loop. The courtroom battle cracked the city open. Testimonies shook the walls. Evidence of expedited placement incentives revealed a business model that preyed on the vulnerable. When Judge Grayson ruled, her voice cut through the quiet. Historical adoption records will be unsealed. This court refers the matter for federal investigation. Abigail, once renamed Crystal, stood beside Mimi, proof I wasn't alone. The movement spread, names restored, voices returned. That night, we lit lanterns on a city lake, each one bearing a name reclaimed. I was never gone, just hidden, I told a mother reunited with her son. The Delgado Foundation was born, led by survivors, building archives, finding the lost. In the garden, a young girl brought me a photo, another name, another story, another life waiting to be known. Some stories begin with silence. Ours began with a name. And now, as the sun set, I wrote in my journal a promise that no child would be erased again. The verdict wasn't the end. It was the start of something bigger, an army of voices, rising together, proof that when you reclaim your name, you reclaim your future. So tell me, what would you have done if your whole story was stolen? Would you stay silent or would you fight to be seen? Let's talk about justice, about names, about how we decide who belongs. Leave your truth below because this story, it's not just mine anymore.